So I'm here with Tobias of Ghost and Joe of Def Leppard. Introduce yourselves.
Hi, this is Tobias Forge, and I am the dude behind the band Ghost.
Hi, I'm Joe Elliott, and I am the lead singer in Def Leppard.
So thanks for being here with me. I wanted to start off that you've started working together on a new track called Spillways. Well, I say it's a new track. It's a re-recording of the track of the same name from the last Ghost record, Impera. How did your collaboration come about?
As in Ghost and Def Leppard, I guess we were courting each other a little by talking about each other. From my end, I mean, it was, obviously I grew up in the 80s. So Def Leppard was obviously a part of growing up. And as a songwriter writing for various albums, trying to find new ways of writing songs, I've always tried to make a thing in being interviewed about trying to penetrate every new album with something new or something that sets it apart from the previous one, so that I try not to write the same album over and over again. And I've said, and sometimes it's nuances that maybe the listener might not pick up on, because it might be a mind experiment rather than, at the end of the day, it's just like a rock song. So some people think that, well, it doesn't sound like Metallica, so how can it be influenced by Metallica? Well, it has to do with this or that or something. But I had this idea writing a lot of the songs on the new album, where in the past I've written songs like Square Hammer that was very punkish in the way that it was just one riff in the beginning, that was the verse, and then you just flip and go into the chorus, and then it was back to the verse, and then was a chorus, and then it was a solo basically on the verse. And I felt I wanted to explore something that I've always found very fascinating with Def Leppard, which was a very simple example here is to pick any song off of Hysteria. You would find that each song starts with like one intro riff, and then there's another riff, and then comes a verse, and then comes a pre-chorus, sort of, because afterward you think you're at the chorus, but it's another pre-chorus that's like a completely different thing. And then finally at step 5 you're at the chorus, and you're like, oh, now we're here. Like, oh, finally, like what an amazing journey. And then after like a minute and a half you're back in the beginning again, and then it's sort of over again, and works really well, which was something that I've found to be hard to do, because it takes a lot of effort and balls to sort of not to take the easy way out. When you're at the part 3, it's easy to sort of find that to be like, oh, this is the chorus, and then you just want to go back to the beginning again because you want to sort of finish the song in a way. So it has a very big dick energy when you write songs like that, because it allows the songs to sort of grow and just naturally feel gigantic. And that felt like an interesting mind experiment, writing a lot of the songs on the new record, to allow for another additional thing to happen, even though you might intuitively feel like, we're there. No. Let's add one more bit before we get there. Like another course before we get to the main meal.
Fantastic. And you spoke very positively about Def Leppard. What was that like from Joe's side?
From Joe's world, I understood that there was also an interest in my band. And when something like that happens, there are usually people around you that says that, oh, Joe Elliott or Phil Collins just mentioned you or mentioned the band. Oh, really? That's cool. Great. And then you don't do anything about that. It's more like, I hope we play someday at the same festival and we can bump into each other. We played at the same festivals a few years ago. I think we've done it a couple of times, but the way things work when you're playing a big festival is usually you're far apart and you play at different stages, and yeah, so it never really happened. And then one day, Joe, what happened?
Then one day, when the grown-ups had done exactly what you said, they said, "Hey, look what Tobias just wrote about you," and vice versa. It was just put to me that we could get together and work on this song that I'd been raving about on my radio shows and in the press about how much I really loved the new album, or the latest album. I keep saying new. It's been out a while now, but newish, latest. And how Spillways was just, I don't want to say it's a standout track because it's a great album, but it's a standout track in the sense of the intro is completely like not anything I would have expected Ghost to do. So it was like, for me, the obvious flagship song, if you like. It's the first single off the album, that kind of tune, you know. In my world as a kid, it would have been the first single off a vinyl album, the same way that You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet was the first single off a Bachman Turner Overdrive album, or Come On Feel the Noise was the first single off a Slade album, because it's just got all the stuff that you need to capture people in a 3-minute opportunity, capture their attention, and it caught mine straight away. So I'd been raving about the song for months and months and months. And then when I was finally, you know, when our people talked to Tobias's people and it all kind of ironed itself out, I got the opportunity to sing on what was going to be a remake of the song. And I was just chomping at the bit to do it. You know, it's such a fantastic tune. And I was just, in fact, I actually went ahead before I knew it was actually going to get the green light. So I actually already sung it by the time I think they said, yeah, let's do this. I'd already done it because I was just wanting to get it done, you know. And then we were very fortunate at the time to get together in Ireland for an afternoon one Saturday in a pub and shoot the webisode, the karaoke webisode for the song, which was just a blast to do. And we finally met. And as Tobias says, yeah, we played a festival together as recently as 2019 in Nashville, I believe it was. But different stages or different days or whatever, things just happen where you turn up late and they've already left, or vice versa. So, but we got to hang out. And that was a really great afternoon for me, because 4 or 5 hours that we were in this pub, not even maybe 4, we spent maybe in 90 minutes filming and 2.5 hours just talking and getting to know each other and sharing ideas and just hanging out like two guys, you know, and it was great fun, and can't wait to do it again one day.
And speaking of the webisode, you can clearly see the fun you had.
Well, you know, my whole point with these things is you've got to jump in feet first. If I'm going to play the dork karaoke singer, then I'm going to be a dork. I'm not trying to be a superhero. I'm going to be the guy that gets up because my buddy at the bar says, go on, show him how to do it. And then I get dragged into the screen, coming out kind of screaming and spluttering. It's like, I don't think I'll get my equity card, but it was great fun to do because you got to ham it up. It's a comedy video, which again is a great way to do these things because it's not a comedy song by any means. But to do it, to play against that factor by making the video kind of funny, I think it draws attention to the song in a much more open-minded way than if it was a deadly serious video for a deadly serious song. That's something that Ghost probably already done on a million songs, and so have we. And if we do silly songs like Let's Get Rocked, we do silly videos. But yeah, it was real good fun to do. And the fact that Tobias actually directed the video, so he was actually there, hands-on, saying, do it like this, do it like that. I was happy to take his direction because it's his vision. I'm just the guest. So I was happy to kind of just supply whatever he wanted, really.
It was great fun. I mean, what we've done forever, really, with Ghost is, even though there are obviously themes surrounding the songs and the overall arch of the theme is actually kind of gloomy. People simplify it by saying it's a satanic. Of course, it has that imagery, but it's about mankind. It's about how people behave and to what means they use in order to manipulate and behave poorly to each other. I've always liked to mix that up with a great deal of fun. So we, where the albums themselves are normally not comedic, if you will, our shows are, and our videos usually are, because, I just like having fun, I think that that's a very important part of life, but also when it comes to, if you want to speak about lifestyles and all that stuff, but it's part, for me, metal and hard rock and rock is about having fun. It's about joy. It's supposed to be joyous. Even like the black metal band of all time, so Venom, they were super comedic. Like, that was fun.
Cool, excellent. Well, what did you pay attention to in the run up to the collaboration with Joe?
I was very adamant about, when this collaboration came to fruition, it was important for me to let's make something that makes, ideally when you make a collaboration, the most ideal way of doing things is the same way if you do a tour together, or you want it to feel like it happened completely organically. No one would ever doubt that Motorhead and Girl School would do something together, because everybody knew they were friends and everybody knew that they were hanging out. So when they do a song together, of course they do. And in this day and age, I think that it's very common that the grown-up, as Joe said, the managers, the labels, everybody around you, they are very adamant about collaborations because it's a thing today. That's how hip hop operates. It's all about cross-pollination and all that stuff. And I've always been a little reserved when it comes to that, because it's all about vibes. It's all about finding not necessarily common ground, but the ideal way to do it is to make it seem intuitive.
And was there a main reason why you finally agreed to the collaboration?
What really made it for me was how Joe sang on it, because it sounded so good. And my vocal style, my way of singing, especially on a record, just because the massive amount of overdub I do and just the way I do things, it's very on time like that. It's very almost mathematically on time in a way that I sometimes wish I wasn't as on the beat. And as soon as Joey came in, it was like, whoa, he was so dragging in a really cool way. And it just made it sound, I was surprised how similar sort of the vocal qualities were, in terms of I've never really thought about it, but we have a similar tone. But the way you sing, Joe, and the way I sing has that dramatic difference in terms of me sounding almost like I'm on, I sound like I'm on meth. And you sound like you're really and that for me completely sold it. This is great. This sounds fucking phenomenal. You made it sound so cool. But how do we do it now so that it feels fun and intuitive? How do we make it joyous? So it's not just oh, here, we got Joe Elliott to sing on it now. How about that? I never want to do it like that. I always want to try to present things in a multi sort of prong attack, where it's yeah, here's this sort of joke we're taking out on this little journey over here with this episode, where we're telling you something, we're enjoying you with this. But then we have a commercial message as well. Yeah, we have a tour announced. We have this single coming out. We've done that in the past. We made episodes about a 60s rock band, and as this little ribbon on the cake, we, as a cherry on top, we sort of had a few songs coming with that episode, and that turned out to be the biggest song of our career so far. And so for me, it's important to make it seem fun, for lack of a better word.
And Joe, what Tobias just said about your singing technique is pretty pure Goosebumps, isn't it?
Yeah, he gave me the pimples. Nobody's ever analysed my vocals like that since Mutt Lang was sat in the control room. Yeah, I do tend to sing on the backbeat because I used to rush like crazy and I was always ahead of the beat and Mutt would pull me up on it. So I really started to study all the singers that were on what you call backbeat singers. There's a lot of musicians that once you get your head around what that is, you can hear it. Great example is John Bonham. John Bonham as a drummer plays so on the backbeat. It is what separates him from every other drummer on the planet, you know. But from singing point of view, it was all the masters. It's your Marvin Gaye's and your Otis Reddings and people like Paul Rodgers. They're lazy. It just gives the song a bit more character, I suppose. I didn't really notice anything wrong with Tobias's vocal on that record or any song he's ever sung, to be quite honest. The style of music that Ghost creates, his voice suits it fine and the timing doesn't sound out to me, but I can see what he means about it being just mine, maybe slightly lazier. But that's just because with the kind of stuff that we do on a song like Armageddon It off Hysteria, because of the tempo of it, you have to be on the backbeat to make it work. And that was one of the things that was a big learning curve for me. And again, you know, once you get your head around the technique and the singing just becomes second nature, you concentrate more then on your phrasing and your emotional connection to whatever lyric you're singing rather than just being a robot. And then you exaggerate that if you get the opportunity to make a video for it. And as Tobias says, you want to make them fun.
And the webisode of Spillways turned out rather funny. We talked about it here. Are there any good examples of darker videos?
We all love a good dark video. I think of things like Don't Give Up by Kate Bush and Peter Gabriel. It's very dark. You know, One by Metallica, very dark. But there is room for humor in rock because it is supposed to be fun. And a lot of very serious artists are very funny people. Depeche Mode come across as a band that is supposedly very dark, and so do Rammstein. But they're funny. You know, back in the 80s, there was a pop band from the UK called Talk Talk. When you saw them on TV, you'd think they were just the most deadly serious people ever. And some of our crew used to work with those guys when we were touring, said they were the funniest people they've ever met. So, you know, humor is what drives us along. And sometimes we need to apply it into our art, not necessarily lyrically, but certainly visually. So, you know, it stimulates good feelings in your audience. And it also shows that you don't take yourself too seriously. And I think that's really important in this business.
Tobias, you are back on the road with Ghost and also the new recording of Spillways. How did you bring the collaboration on stage, if at all? Or Joe, are you even going on tour with Ghost?
Yeah, we're going to cancel the South American tour with Motley Crue, and I'm just going to come out and do the one song. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Joe. That's so cool.
Yeah, you're welcome.
At some point, it would be really cool if we could do something. If there is one not fun thing about becoming bigger, which I've noticed now the last couple of years, is that we never, well, of course, there are obviously other bands that I like seeing lower down on the bill on a festival, but the higher up you come, the less likely you are to see your favorite bands. You know, every time we play a festival, there's always like the bands that I want to see are the day before or the day after. And on the day of, you're so busy or you're doing things that you can't really see anything else. And usually when it comes to what we're talking about here, like sharing stage together, it's just designed in a way that's going to make it harder. Even when you're not playing festivals, you know, obviously promoters, they try to put concerts. If Ghost and Def Leppard are on tour at the same time, the promoter will make sure that we're not playing anywhere near each other. So it won't be, you know, because we're basically drawing a somewhat similar crowd. So we would be too close to each other. And whenever I'm on tour, I always try to plan my days off. And I always try to look like, what bands are playing? I'm the sort of artist that actually love going to shows on a day off. And it's getting more and more annoying because I can see like, oh, they were just here. And it's always designed so that it never happens on my day off. They're always far away. Any band I want to see. So, but we'll work on it one day. I hope that we can deliver that version with Joe on stage in a Mitra.
Organically, it will happen organically. You guys on, and we're on the, we're in the day before, we hang around a day later, or we just happen to be on two separate stages 20 minutes apart. The chances of that happening is pretty slim, but if it did, we would know. We would know that opportunity was going to arise, and we'd know a couple of weeks in advance. So we would be on the phone to each other going, I think we can pull it off. So let me dust off the lyrics and I'll be ready for you. If you're one of those. The recording wasn't organic. The get together was, as soon as it becomes part of what you do. Once I got the invite, now it's work. And I want to deliver so that Tobias is not disappointed. So I go to work. I'm not just going to piss this thing off in 2 minutes and go, there you go. Where's my money? I said, I didn't want any money. I did it for fun. And then we're back to that brilliant 3-letter word again. But once it's there, if anything does come together down the road, it'll be planned properly, but it'll be because by coincidence, we will be on the same planet at the same time. And then, then it's the same continent and the same town and the same stage, but not at the same time until that very moment. And then it'll be spontaneous.
Well, Tobias and Joe, thank you very much.